Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, heroes and villains, we're back. Me and Riddell, another One Piece review. We always get these early reviews out for the leaked chapter. Um, so some things might change. Translations come in with the real one. Some things are reworded. But we're back with another one, chapter 1153, and it's pretty much focused on Harold and Loki's backstory for the most part. We get to see Harold as a king, a wild king, and he kind of, in typical fashion, he meets a woman that kind of changes his world view of things. He starts off as just like this savage barbarian type of guy. He's just pillaging. They're pirates and giants at that. They're terrorizing the seas. They pretty much meet this woman who appears to be captured in a circus, but it turns out it's not exactly how things kind of appear. And when they save her, they kind of learn that the humans that captured her saved her, and she was repaying them by being basically a circus attraction to kind of help them rebuild, make some money, things of that nature. How'd you feel about that little introduction to? I guess that's Hodgedean's mom, right? Yeah, it's Hodgedean.
Yeah, that's Hodgedean's mom.
Yeah.
So I am a bit different from our Game of Thrones reaction, right? Where women be ruining everything for the men. Low key, when you think about One Piece, a lot of the women be doing these men justice. They be turning them to the good side. So shout out a lot of them. A lot of the mothers, for the most part, have been very, very good influences. If you think about it, you can guess that Ace's mom, Roger's mom, I'm guessing is pretty good. We got Sanji's mom, who's the good one, and then the dad was the piece of garbage. We got so many moms. The Dragon Boy, I forget his name. His mother was great. Mm-hmm. I probably could just go a whole through list, and there's just a bunch of great mothers. Sure, Hoshi's mother was great, and then got murked.
Yep.
So a lot of great mothers, and it's funny to think about that with all these women doing so many good things, and then arguably the biggest villain in the entire series is a woman. So, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. How I feel about this, I like the twist. I don't mind this is the way Harold changes at all, personally, because sometimes you gotta get something spicy to kind of change the big-hearted man, especially when it comes to it's such a strong perception change. He had the interpretation that all humans are weak, all of them are frail, all the blah blah, and then he found a firsthand example of someone who's like, no, humans are normal, humans are good, and this is going to be a catalyst on Harold's character change, because last he was the most evil, and then he found a good woman, and look what happened, right? So I don't mind it. I thought it was a pretty good start to everything for the most part. I was surprised that little kind of twist in like two panels, 2 pages or whatever. I legit thought that they were just going to go that route, and then I didn't know how they were going to change it. But I respect it. The real question, though, is not necessarily how good or bad that backstory is. The real question, Miles, how do you feel about her design?
I don't know. I don't know how to feel about her. I'll say the one thing I think Oda's been really great about is kind of distinguishing like the size of everything right about now, right? So when we first see her in the cage, like she looks massive compared to like the other humans, which she's a giant in her own right. She's supposed to be that massive. But then when she's alongside like Dory, Bragi, and King Harold, she looks human size. To really put it into perspective, like, whoa, like these guys are pretty massive. How old is this woman? She looks like a teenager. I don't know how old Harold is. I don't know the giant physiology. She's 15. Right. Oh, Harold's 15?
No, Harold's 15. Remember? He was 15 in human years.
Got you. So, I don't know. I'm still not sold on it. She looks way younger than them. Her aside, and I want to put a picture up real quick. That's why I kind of have my screen in the background. This is obviously, there's nothing substantial to it. This nigga looks like Garp. I don't care what anybody says. He looks like Garp.
He do look like Garp.
Now it could just be coincidence. I don't think they're related, obviously, or anything like that. But he looks just like Garp, and that's what kind of stuck out to me. And then I saw a lot of theories also about these marks on his eyes here. I don't think my mouse can kind of capture it, but he has these marks. Oh, okay, wait. Okay, he has these marks on his eyes. A lot of people theorize that that was because he was married to like an outsider. It clearly isn't because this is before any marriage or anything's involved. So I wonder what these kind of marks mean and why Gabon's wife has these same markings. Is it a sign of ancient giant blood? I'm wondering what could be the case here.
I feel like more than likely that's probably it because of there's obviously a distinguishment between certain types of giants. They got that kind of a class system, and I assume the only differentiating factor would be the horns.
Sure.
But oh, maybe it actually still is the horns because for some reason I realized that the other horn she was wearing was fake horns, which is
Yeah.
also interesting because how did humans know about the giants with horns types as well? I don't mind it. I think it's a cool distinguishment, and it does definitely show something between the ancient giants and the rest of the world. The only reason why I put it out her design, and one thing she also could just be much smaller. Like I think you said it before, that there are different sizes of giants, and she could just be much shorter, kind of like Big Mom, I guess, if you think about it. So we need to also learn more. I wonder if we're gonna get Big Mom in this. I feel like we have to get Big Mom in this backstory as well.
Well, they showed Ja Rule and his brother. We know that Ja Rule's brother got killed by Big Mom. So I'm thinking that's going to kind of be maybe not pivotal, but I feel like they're going to touch on it in his backstory.
Yeah, I feel like they have to. They're telling the history of the Giants, and my expectation is Big Mom eventually does show up. They kind of have to show what Big Mom did in the first place. Um, I'm fine with it for the most part. I think it should be all right if like Harold is 15. He's like the youngest giant. It's cool. The only reason why I brought up her design is this is not the typical Oda design because obviously Oda loves to make his women very flamboyant, very pretty, all that stuff. I'm like, oh, she kind of reminds me of like a Raggedy Ann doll. She's like a ginger type. I guarantee she has red hair, to be
I
honest.
I'm with you. Ginger freckles for sure.
Yeah, and then most people probably won't look at that as like, oh yeah, super attractive. I will say there is one panel where she's like looking that way, and he definitely added some curvature in certain areas.
Yeah,
He was locked in for that. I was like, she got something. Harold is looking at something. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I don't mind it. I guess the other part about it is how much she changed. Whatchamacallit, Harold. How did you feel about that?
I wish there was a little bit more insight to how long they were actually there. Um, I do believe that people can make changes based off of like the people that they meet. You can get a perspective shift, but it also seems very, very fast. That's why I'm kind of wondering how long they were there. Um, Things like learning not architecture, construction. They learned their construction methods, fabrics. I feel like a lot of that stuff is kind of easily transferable. But for him to like go to like bowing down before I guess the king of that nation, that island that they were on, I feel like that's a really, really big step compared to the Herald we saw in like last chapter, basically, where he just seemed like a wildebeest that wasn't able to be reasoned with. So
It's interesting to kind of get a little meta. Sometimes there is a mindset, there's a perception. Ultimately, who you are is completely led by this perception or this ideal. And sometimes the moment that is switched, everything about you is completely turned on the head. And it could just be as simple as he assumed all humans are below him. They suck. They're terrible. They discriminate against giants. They're the worst of the worst. They're ants. Then he meets one person. That person was saved by humans, treated well by humans, fed by humans. She's a giant. She doesn't belong in this world. She also is the first woman that's probably ever talked back to him. That's not
Yes.
Dory and Bragi. She slapped him in the face. It's like
In front
I
of
was
his
like,
whole crew
in
too.
front of the crew. She did not give no F's. It was like, whoa. Whoa. So taking that all to, and I think that he said it this before too, Miles. Dory and Bragi also respect humans. So this is probably not the first time he's heard of this, but this is the first time he's experienced it.
Sure.
So I'm fine with it. And sometimes you don't need the long-winded backstory. We're not here
For sure.
for their relationship. Let's be real. We're
Sure.
here for the juicy lore stuff on why he was killed in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Quick thing too. We kind of get to see him, like I said, the construction, the fabrics, the bowing before the king, all that good stuff. They throw in the Nika dance there. We get to see yet another race of people who are tapped in with the Nika dance. So now it's the Skypeans, it's the Buccaneers, the Lunarians had knowledge, and now the Giants are participating in the dance and kind of showing it off to those humans. Nika, man, they always find a way to make him a part of every single story now. Everybody knew about him.
Everybody knew about Nika. I'm trying to think. I feel like the expectation for Joy Boy in particular, and I guess maybe if there's a bigger narrative with Nika before Joy Boy, which could be possible, is so high. There's not many character reveals that's like, are they going to be this impressive when we finally meet them? They influence the entire world. One example, right off rip, Madara Uchiha. He was talked about so much throughout the Naruto verse. And once we finally, even someone using his name like Obito was hugely influential. And I guess similar to Luffy being called Joy Boy. When we finally met Madara, other than his ending, I'm just talking about his introduction.
Sure.
I think he blew everybody away. People call him one of the greatest villains of all time. Naruto, Kishimoto nailed the Madara reveal. Considering how important Nika / Joy Boy is to this entire narrative, he has to nail the Joy Boy reveal. Whatever that is, he can't be a bum. He can't. That would ruin so many people's experience of One Piece, I would say.
For sure. I guess after that, he kind of returns to Elbaf, and that's where I say the change is kind of fast. Well, I guess it's a little bit of a time skip. They say Elbaf 105 years ago. Basically, Harold immediately gets in his diplomacy bag. He's like, "Yo, we committed mad atrocities and sins. We basically have to kind of atone for all of these." So we get to kind of see the shift in Harold being, this almost tyrant-like figure to no, let's try to make peace with all of these nations. Let's make commerce. Let's do some deals. Um, Oda's getting into kind of like a different bag here. It's a slightly different bag here. And I don't think he's going to go too crazy and flesh it all the way out. But I like the idea of people talking like politics, how we can make our nation better through ways outside of conquest, where it's kind of seemed like One Piece. It's we're coming here, we're taking this territory, and that's our idea of enriching the nation, whether that's piracy or that's people having a bend the knee to the world government. So it's interesting seeing somebody try to navigate outside of those parameters to try to make things happen for their country.
And also another interesting thing, the fact that he was able to go to so many places and not really have a bad experience. And we were told by Emu that the Giants were the most terrifying race. Also, the narrative said that the Giants were the most terrifying race. So I guess this is another way kind of to look at it. Because if you imagine any other species traveling as much as they're traveling, nah, that's not going to work. But these Giants went to anywhere they wanted. Nobody stopped them, and they were able to get diplomatic with each one. That's pretty goddamn impressive, I'm not going to lie. Wait. Now that I think about it, Big Mom is trying to do the same thing in her own way.
It's more by force, though.
True.
It's the diplomacy, but I got all my weapons showing. I got my whole army with me. And yeah, now we're going to talk.
It would make sense if Big Mom was inspired by Harold.
I wouldn't doubt it.
And that would make her narrative come full circle. And considering she always has freaking amnesia, she doesn't remember that she was inspired by Harold.
I like that.
Could be good. But yeah, I do think a lot of time has passed as well. It takes a long time to sail, and they're getting close in that entire time. So you got to grow that romance. So it's a couple years before you really start feeling someone. Well, not certain people. I don't
So
know
it
how.
seems like, well, yeah, I'm a slow guy. I'm slow, man.
Okay.
You feel me? But so it seems like he came back to Elbaf, and then I think it's like 14 years later, is when Hydrogene's kind of born. So he does like 14 years of diplomacy, or at least attempting at it, trying to change Elbaf from the inside before having his own child, and immediately kind of ostracized. They only recognize the pure giant blood or whatever. So they're basically moved to like this different subsection of the city. Um, the main thing I want to point out is that with this change in Harold, they kind of considered Elbaf at this point to be blessed. That's like the thing they were kind of harping on. Like he's going to usher in this new era. There's going to be a lot of good fortune and good luck. And we'll see by the end of the chapter that with the birth of his second son, that kind of all goes on his head.
So we've been having mixed messages with Harold so much with his design and being called evil and then also being called good. And I think I finally comfortably can say he is a genuinely like good, just king. I mean, if we're having conversations of best kings in One Piece, if that ever really becomes a conversation for someone, Harold might be up there, considering how much he changed his entire everybody's perceptions of giants. He changed the entire landscape of giant kind. He might be one of them ones. With that said, I just wonder, like, what is the reason why he would team up with the government? Was it too nice?
We find out it's not too nice. Before we get there though, because well, fuck it, we bounce around all of the time. Pause. But anyway, his diplomacy efforts seem to have been stopped by the world government. Every single time he tried to make a parlay, and there's a panel that he kind of notes it, and he's like, "Damn, blocked by the world government again." So that's probably more than likely why he sought to kind of unify Elbaf under the world government, just to be able to see a lot of the fruits of his labor come to pass.
I would have to see how it kind of plays out, because why still? I guess I'm curious what the government, how do people perceive the government at that time? To be fair, we're kind of black-pilled because we know how evil the government can be.
Sure.
Most people don't think the government is that evil in the One Piece world.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's very interesting. That could be the reason. And because of how much I was hyping up the Giants and how much the story hyped up the Giants, I guess it would make sense. I don't know if it's a strong enough reason, but it could be, of why Emu was like, I want this. I want this species. I want this in particular. Mm-hmm. I need to see how that plays out. Did you got the panel pulled up?
Yeah, I actually do got it where he was getting blocked. Yeah, this ad wasn't here. You can see, meanwhile, Harold kind of struggles against the walls of diplomacy.
Yo, that ad is crazy. I read it.
God. That ad is insane. Hold on, let's see if I can get it to go away. Okay, yeah, it's gone now.
Okay, bet.
Okay. So we see, meanwhile, Harold struggled against the walls of diplomacy, blocked by the world government again. Why can't countries just be free? So
right.
It's clear he, like, maybe some of his efforts kind of came to pass, but when he dealt with certain nations, it was probably like an impossible roadblock. So one of the countries that he mentioned visiting was Fishman Island, and he actually got to meet King Neptune, who's the king that we know now. He met King Neptune as a baby. So I'm wondering if maybe the former king if he was able to try to make a parlay, make something happen. And that was one of the big roadblocks that the world government got in the way of, because we know they hate fishmen for sure. Nothing to get fishmen ahead is their MO.
True. That's a very interesting point. Harold, I guess this is the first prime example of someone probably having the ability to negotiate with all this and the power, because we're assuming Harold was probably one of the strongest people in the One Piece verse at that time, for sure. But regardless of that, there were something stopping him. Is it as simple as the Celestial Dragons and Emu, or is it more complicated than that in terms of the greed of humanity? Hard to really say, but it just tells you that Luffy's gonna have to do something above that in order for him, because Harold was strong enough to talk to everybody, meet everybody, all that good stuff. Luffy's gonna have to do something above what Harold did here.
Just a quick tidbit on the last bit of diplomacy, and then I guess we'll get into like Loki's mom and her introduction. Usually, when diplomacy is a thing, it's kind of like a bartering or an exchange of like ideals or cultures or something. You got to benefit another country, for them to want to parlay with you. It's not all just power. That can be the determining factor, but usually when you have something to trade, that helps. It seems like Elbaf's resource, other than its manpower, was their unique set of navigation skills. So I'm not really sure what it was about how they travel, because they'd never been past the red line. So it wasn't something like we see the Marines in the future have like the sea stone line ships to keep the sea beasts away, but they clearly had something in the way that they sailed that caught a lot of the country's eyes. Maybe even like the world government could have kind of take notes from them to kind of innovate their ships, like we saw around the time of Luffy's journey.
That's very interesting. I never even thought about the idea of the Giants having a unique trait that makes them stand out in particular. We've seen some things so far, like each area having something very akin to making the government interested in them. Basically, ever since we hit Wano, the government had their hands in pretty much every arc. They wanted something from there. They wanted something from Wano, they wanted something from Egghead, and now they want something from Elbaf. So every place that the Straw Hats have gone, the government in particular wanted something from that location.
Sure.
I'm curious to see for this situation when it comes to the Giants and the navigation. It also could be power, because Giants are stronger than most humans in general as well. The Straw Hats, I would say, gain something from every arc as well from those places. What do you think they're going to gain from this? Like, they have a navigator. That's Nami. So what are they, other than like maybe a power up from some people? What do you think they're getting from this arc in particular, from these people as well?
The people, I'm not really sure. I think the crew member is like the low hanging fruit, but I do think we're gonna get more into the realm of like the Straw Hats, being in the know of like what's happening in the world. I feel like the Egghead situation was kind of like distressful. I could see you not really being locked into the message and more locked into your survival. You know what I'm saying? But I can definitely see the idea of like Luffy getting more knowledge as into like who he is, his crew understanding who he is, and even outside of power, just understanding like hockey, the demons, the past history. I think that's going to be their biggest takeaway here, because for the longest time we've kind of seen the Straw Hats kind of just go with the flow. If anybody knows something, I feel like Robin pretty much has a grasp, but Luffy's pretty much on a like a if I don't need to know, don't tell me type of vibe. And we haven't really seen Robin communicate with anybody else about this stuff. So the crew's been kind of in the dark. They don't really know anything. So information is my biggest bet, mostly just information.
That is interesting when you think about it, because we talked about Luffy and his leadership before, on the podcast probably, or on the One Piece videos. It does make me wonder if Luffy is going to be better than Roger in uniting the world and taking down the government, better than Harold, and better than Joy Boy, and he doesn't give two shits about most things that goes on. You gotta convince me, Yoda. You gotta convince me that Luffy can really be this leader of the world, because that's what he's gonna be if he's going to surpass all these individuals who actually care about all this stuff and freed people like intentionally. Luffy, he will free you once he gets there. Like he's not going out of his way. It's like, oh, the Fishman. Oh, now I'm going. No, he's on Fishman Island. Now he's gonna save you guys.
It very much seems like there has to be somebody that he likes being taken advantage of or being hurt for him to take that next step. Whereas other than that, I'm just here to fight. So I'm wondering how him learning information is going to kind of shift Luffy as a character, if at all. It could be very well be the case that he doesn't really change much. But I'm wondering if we'll see. I can't ever see Luffy being a very serious character, but at least more serious than what we have now. It just seems like as he gets stronger, he just gets less locked in. That's just how I feel.
Bro, facts. To be fair, the way they could do it is as simple as everybody around them does all this stuff. Like Dragon's the one who takes down the world government.
Sure.
Freaking all of Vivi's the political leader that unites the world. Like everybody else around Luffy does the leadership, politics, saving the world, helping the people, and Luffy's just vibing. It could just be that. I don't know how I feel about that, but we'll see.
Because I'm with you. My idea is that Luffy's gonna have to do something different from Roger and Joy Boy. That's the major thing here. Because whatever they did clearly wasn't the right way, and we saw them fail. So maybe relying on more people and getting help might be the answer. We don't really know the details of Joy Boy and things like that, but we know Roger, for the most part, kind of just operated with his crew. Maybe it takes a lot more beyond that in order to achieve what they're trying to do. And Luffy just being himself and people you wanted to unite behind him will be the answer that they didn't have before.
I guess actually the last thing, and then we can move on to Loki's mom. Maybe it is as simple as it's Shanks. Because the recent chapter, I think Zoro's kind of realizing that Luffy has a Shanks obsession.
Yeah.
He just does. And maybe Shanks always being that pillar Luffy can rely on is what's holding him back from taking his mantle. Because what we've seen from Shanks is that there might be an argument that Shanks should be in Luffy's position right now. That Shanks was supposed to be the child of destiny, that Shanks was supposed to save the world, that Shanks was supposed to be king of the pirates, and then he chose Luffy. So maybe Shanks, once he dies, Luffy will finally be like, now I have to take the role. Because Shanks has been doing a lot of back behind the scenes shit. Everything that we want Luffy to do, Shanks has been doing.
Mm-hmm. Especially depending on how he dies, too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So
I'm with you.
We'll see. We'll see. Now let's talk about one of the worst mothers in One Piece history real quick. Let's talk about her.
Off jump, I really didn't like her. So Loki's mom, her name is Estrid. Pretty much after Harold kind of conceives Hajerdine with his first wife, they pretty much say, we're not going to really accept her because she's not of royal blood, and they quickly come up with an arranged marriage. She's just she kind of looked like a tall Vivi at first to me, but she does have a much more sinister look to her face. And immediately off the bat, she starts talking about the earth and the wind and the esoteric arts. I'm like, this is like the One Piece version of like an astrology hoe. This is an astrology hoe. They gotta. She's gonna ask him when he was born and what time next. And she's just not moving me. She wants all of the jewels upstairs. They're showering her with gifts and praise. She's that typical arranged marriage queen. She's giving out demands immediately. Very much bred for this type of situation. And she's not enhancing my boy Harold's life at all, in my opinion. His first wife enhanced the life, changed the worldview. We're being a diplomat. We're getting things going. New wife, she's just here for the earth and the wind, man. How are you feeling about this woman, man?
Yeah, we don't rock with that shirt. Everything that I said about Harold's wife, he did for Estrid right here. He's like, I'm going to make her look good for the One Piece fans. And, all intents and purposes, she does for what Oda likes to do. With that said, this is the part of the backstory that I had the most issue with. Because, okay, Harold found the love of his life who changed his entire perception of the world. That's powerful, especially being so young, because Harold was very young at that time. He's grown up. He's become a leader. He's changed Elbaf for the good. I just don't believe that some old dudes and this woman were good, strong enough reason for him to not turn on his wife, but have another wife deal with a pompous asshole like her, being basically everything that he hates now, and then also having a kid with her. Like, I just couldn't buy it. Everything Harold did, I just couldn't buy that he would just give in like that. It just that part didn't move me. That's probably my biggest issue with the backstory. What do you think?
Yeah, he just kind of got shoehorned in. I would have loved for Oda to kind of, if he was going to introduce her, just take the full drastic approach and have her be like a 180 of his first wife. But it feels like she's in this weird middle ground area where she's like a pompous bitch, but she's not an evil person. So I can't properly hate her like I want to. Something I did want to point out, because
Well,
like
until the end of the chapter, I feel like you could say, yeah.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate for her, but
talk about it.
One thing that did stuck out to me, a lot of this I took at for face value because I don't give a fuck about this character. I'm gonna just be transparent. I don't care about her. But he mentioned, because at first I'm like, the earth and the wind, astrology, this is bullshit. And let me get this dumbass ad out the way. This freaky ad. I'll bring it up. Oh my god, it keeps coming back. I'll bring it up on the screen. She mentions this here. The energies here are aligned to the east. This won't do it all. The king spirit is leaking out quick. Shut the windows. So that part, I was like, nothing. Now that demons and demonology has been introduced and we've seen symbolism and everything, that mirror is positioned in a lethal 5-star configuration. Dispose of it. I'm wondering, if at all, how long have demonic forces been at play in Elbaf? Because this is his throne room they're talking about. This is the same place where he got killed. This is the same place where Shamrock and Gunko first teleported to. She's mentioning this 5-star pattern. Could this just be simple foreshadowing, or is there more at play? Because she's talking about energy and it leaking out. How do you feel about that?
Something just popped in my head when she said that. If we're to assume that the demon stuff is embedded into Elbaf and let's just say giant kind, then my perception of Emu's ability completely changes. Because I don't think, now that I'm thinking about it, she chose very specific people to do it to. And I think that everybody she chose to do it to were ancient giants. So they're the only ones it worked on. Instead of the idea of her turning people into demons, I think it might be just a time ability, and she'll revert you back to your old ways.
Sure.
And the old ways of the ancient giants are these demonic ancient giants. So those are just giants in their reverse form back in the day when they were just savages.
Sure.
So if that's the case, then I feel like when she does this ability where she reverts people back to a different time, because we're also kind of assuming that this could be like a Gunko of a pastime as well. Or, yeah. Then it's possible, especially the fact that she gives people immortality as well. That's possible that this ability works differently from based on different races, different people. Like, it'll be completely different on what happens to them. And let's just say, let's entertain the idea that this happens to a good guy, right?
Sure.
Some character we care about. Could it happen to like Luffy, and Luffy reverts to Joy Boy? Like real Joy Boy.
That'd be scary for Emo, no?
It would.
That would be terrifying.
That would be the one thing you don't want to do, but it could accidentally happen because we saw Dory and Broggy by themselves down my reverse side other ancient giants.
Yeah.
So maybe one of them accidentally reverses Luffy.
I'm with you. Oda's, I guess it's like the strokes of a good writer. He's doing a good job of showing us a lot of shit, but making it very unclear as to how any of it works. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because my thing with the Domai reverse, I didn't find it believable that beating Dory and Bragi is one thing. Subjugating them like that is vastly different to me. And it was effortless. And like you said, Dory and Bragi, these are like the dogs of the Giants right now. They're the last dogs left, if you will. So I don't know, maybe if it's like you said, her past with Giants, ancient Giants in particular, is the reason why they were so easily subjugated. Maybe she's had her fangs set on Elbaf for a longer time, and they've kind of already been like susceptible to her powers. There's just a lot of mystery involved with Gunmo and Dami Reverse by extension.
No, I'm 100% with you. So this could be interesting, man. Emu's abilities definitely broke the idea of what One Piece abilities. Oh, it's hard to say that because Law's abilities is ridiculously broken as well when you think about all the things he can do. So I'm curious to see how Oda will explain it. I'm sure whatever he does, I'm gonna believe it. I'm not gonna lie. I'm there with you.
I'm still leaning on Gunko, or not Gunko, but Emu, the real one, probably has access to all of the Devil Fruit abilities. And I just don't see her being able to give constant immortality when the only immortality that's been introduced to us is, through his lost fruit, but at the cost of his life. Does she use other people's lifespan? There's just so many. It's crazy how her powers are going to work. It's crazy. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah, I don't know how deep they want to go with it when it comes to emo. Who knows? Because we saw in this chapter that there's different species of people and there's different things that exist in those world. Because Loki looked like the Antichrist. I'm not gonna lie, that boy looked like a straight demon. But where do you want to go next? Do we talk about Loki?
So
all that stuff?
You brought it in. You brought it up. So 18 years after the birth of Hadradine, we get Loki. Now, they're talking about him being a healthy baby boy, what they wanted his name to be. All of that stuff is cool. When we see him, Oda, what you got going on? I'm trying to get this ad out the way before I bring my screen up. All right. What do Oda got going on? The horns, I didn't mind. That to me was just ancient giant, or pure-blooded giant or whatever. That's why he has the horns. That makes sense. The eyes. I thought that maybe he was born blind. Maybe he suffered an injury. No, he covers his eyes, very kind of similar to Katakuri. People don't want to see his eyes. The same way people didn't want to see Katakuri's mouth. Maybe because it's a fear. They allude to it being a bad omen. My thing is, why does he have these demonic ass eyes?
If we put everything we've said together about Astrid alluding to the giants being, having demon stuff regarding their history, the idea that ancient giants used to be straight out demons, and Loki is the purest of pure blood ancient giant that has ever existed, and he is what the ancient giants were. And it could be, just throw something out there, it could be one of the reasons why Damai Reverse Side probably won't work on Loki, because he's already one of those demonic ancient giants. He's been there since his entire life. Now, why now is it happening? Hard to say. It could just be an ultra, super, uber, duper recessive gene. If you guys don't know what that is, go back to school. Yeah. But, hey, man, demon. I wonder if it's just a giant abnormality, or is he just really just a demon? Like, straight up, we introducing real life demons in mythology. This guy is from hell. I don't know. Technically, they have hell, but like real hell. Come on.
For sure. I hate that One Piece makes me say I don't know so much. I hate saying I don't know. I like knowing what I'm talking about. I don't fucking know. I wonder how much things would have been differently though if his mother didn't decide to cast him away. Because it seems like he was born, she casted him away. She actually left the palace I don't know if she remained the queen after that, but she pretty much deserted everything. Casted him into the underworld. So him where he's imprisoned at, he's used to this. That's his hood. Um, that also kind of gives insight to why he fucked with those animals as well. Remember when Shamrock was beating up the animals and stuff?
Yeah.
When he was first introduced, he was very empathetic towards the animals. Stop hurting my friends. We kind of get to see why, because when he was in the underworld, that's probably all he had were those wolves and beasts. But Oda's making it very intentional to kind of say, like, those rejected by their mother usually have the most unfortunate lives. And it seems like, and this is where I get into that propaganda, Loki was the one with the shitty life. Casted away by his mom, not loved, forced to kind of cover his eyes, we don't know a lot of stuff in the middle of his journey, but defeated by red hair Shanks at some point in time, defeated by rocks at some point in time, had to kill his own father, and then pretty much for, I guess, the greater part of 20-ish years has been imprisoned, just sitting there with Seastone. His life stinks. So for this Hadra Deen guy to get mad that he was bullied for a couple of years when they were children, I'm not fucking with that. I don't like Hadra Deen no more.
I do think it could be a situation where, kind of similar to Harold, Hadra Deen's perception has always been wrong.
Sure.
And the only thing he knows is that Loki beats him up. And I'm like, it does put Hadra Deen in a bad light. But I will say that it will be good when they kind of redeem themselves. To be fair, hey, that boy, it's kind of like a different reverse Katakuri to an extent, where Katakuri took the mantle and was like, you know what, I'm just going to be the best big brother, all that joint, be the best sibling, and then was taking care of his siblings no matter what, no matter how people treated him. I'm curious what point in Loki's life where he just became that dude that nobody could fuck with.
Birth.
Well, I mean,
he climbed up that Dolo. Birth.
No, so I'm with you. Trust me, I'm with you. But I'm talking about the point where nobody will say anything to him because they are afraid that he will beat the shit out of them. That's what I'm like.
Probably very early on. Very early on, probably. Because we know that when they're kids, he was already way bigger than Hadra Deen. Now, it's kind of hard to scale because when they kind of show all giants together, they just look like humans. But I'm assuming him as a kid, he was already fucking massive. Probably, if not bigger than Harold, the same size as Harold.
Yeah, and also, like, looking at it, she died pretty soon after. So his life probably sucked for, like, a couple weeks, to be honest. Like, she probably had birth and was cooked after that. So a couple weeks, his life sucked. He was living with animals. I feel like the moment Harold took him in, he was treated like a prince and all that stuff, and was treated very right. Probably ostracized, but that image on the very last panel where it looks like that's Loki with the wooden, stick thing.
Yeah.
I feel like at that point you could definitely say that, yeah, all the kids treat him like shit, and all the people avoided him because of his eyes, but all of them were still afraid of him.
For sure. For sure.
See how that pans out. Also, I assume Hadra Deen's mother was the one who kicked the bucket, or at the very least kicked the bucket as well. When do we think she's gonna die?
Interesting.
She has to at some point.
Yeah, eventually, because she's not around now. That's very interesting. I don't know. Interesting. I didn't even think about his mom.
Because we're talking about Hadra Deen. He is getting pampered. He is a loving mother.
As pampered as you can be, being outcasted, treated as a bastard,
Fair. It's definitely different from Jon Snow's mother and how.
For sure.
But to be fair, that's his biological mother. So, he's getting treated right. He is ostracized. And I don't think Hadra Deen is going to have a lot of big stocks anymore. I thought he might have a little power up or something later on. Nah, he's born from another race that doesn't really got it like that. He's cooked.
He's the stunted big bro. He's going to be there for moral support, but Loki's going to be the one that steals the show. they kind of tie back into prophecy, where I don't know why they didn't tell us this before, but some of those last panels they drop on us that it was kind of prophesized that King Harold will someday be slain by his own child. And before Loki's mom kind of kicks the bucket, extra it, she kind of pretty much confirmed. She's like, "Yo, Loki's gonna be the one." With our, you know, we're reading the story. Obviously, we know that this does, in fact, come to pass. But I wonder how much of this is actually tied to that prophecy, and I wonder if maybe the prophecy she's reading is also incomplete. Um, just because Loki had to kill his father doesn't mean the prophecy can be all bad. That might just be one of the steps into something larger in the story to be told.
I'm willing to believe that everything we've been told has completely been mistold because of the curse. I'm already there. I'm at that point where everything we know about Loki was a lie. Well, he probably was a dickhead that bullies people. Like that probably exists in reality.
Like Harold. Harold was the same way. Like is that?
Fair. But he has a good dad.
Yeah.
That can put him in line. I bet Harold's dad could not put him in line. I'm gonna be honest. The way they're hyping up Harold, he's like, yo, nobody could fuck with me. Yeah. Harold should be able to put Loki in line. At the very least, before he grows up and becomes tall as fuck, where he's bigger than everybody. I do think that everything is a lie. Then, and then because of all the lies told about Loki, it just kept leading him to be more of a bad person. So ultimately, this kind of puts everything in perspective. So we'll see how everything plans out. Also, I should have said this earlier. I don't think Loki's gonna join Luffy's main crew. If anything, the only thing he can do is join Luffy's fleet, because there's no way Loki is going on their ship, bro. That's just not happening.
Listen, man, they can bring the owl that manipulates the size of things. If they bring the owl with them, Loki's a crew member. He only has to be a giant when we need him to fight. Other than that, strike that motherfucker down. Make him small.
You might be spitting there. I'm not gonna lie. You might be spitting there.
Or his devil fruit could play a factor into it too. We don't know what his fruit could do. So maybe through that he can kind of make himself allowed to be around the ship.
So Sanji's about to become the 5th strongest character on his crew. That's tough, bro.
He's not weaker than Jinbei. He's not. But I'm all in on Loki joining the crew. I thought it was going to be Yamato to be the 10th crew member, but then it dawned on me that Luffy never once asked her to join. It was always her begging to join. Luffy directly asked Loki to join the crew. And that's the first time that's happened. I'm pretty sure since Frankie. So
I will say this though.
Or Brooke.
See, narratively, what I've read that Sanji's stronger than Jinbei. But Sanji, the quote is damning, bro. The quote is damning. The officials made it. The officials made it worse.
Read the officials to me. How to read the officials? Tell me the officials.
All right, I'm pulling it up right now, because when he said it in the unofficial, it's like, okay, sure. He just thinks that they might be on his like level, sure. Then the officials, all right, I'm pulling it up right now, because when I saw that, I was like, damn, Sanji. Damn. Oh, man, Sanji fans down in the mud. He said verbatim, I'm pulling this up. I had a feeling I'm tired of Mosshead and Jinbei stealing all of my glory.
Well, yeah.
Well, hold on. Because I think I know what you're about to say. But I have to put things into context on what I think this sentence could mean. Because Sanji will never outright say that they're stronger than him. But he will, the pointing this out, putting Zoro in the same sentence when we all know objectively he's above Sanji. And then he all right, we ain't gonna get to that one. And he knows that Zoro now has Conqueror's Haki, or at the very least did some really important stuff in that fight between Big Mom, and he also fought Rob Lucci solo dolo. He's realizing that, man, Zoro's doing a lot of crazy things that I'm just not doing. the fact that he put Jinbei in the same breath of doing stuff.
But Jinbei didn't do anything.
But I'm with. He said it. I only can go by what he said.
I hear you, but he didn't do anything. Like, I don't know what Oda's trying to do here, but Jinbei, when y'all watch this, tell me what Jinbei did in Egghead. He didn't do anything. Now, Sanji did fail on Egghead, so you can say that not doing anything is better than failing, but Jinbei didn't actually do anything.
And on Wano, he simped out and had to have Nico Robin save him. Just
Ooh.
Sanji.
But then he turned around and beat Queen.
He did beat Queen.
Sanji fought Kizaru on Egghead. Where was Jinbei at?
Sanji got his ass beat by Kizaru.
No. They went back and forth. And then Kizaru was like, I'm done playing with you. And then went, what?
I want to be very clear. I don't like the sim stuff. I don't like that sim stuff. I never ever liked it when characters do it. But I don't dislike Sanji. I think Sanji is a good character for what he is in the story. I mean, Oda, this is a damning quote. I'm just saying, you're making it seem like, man, he thinks Jinbei's doing more than him.
Sanji fans, listen, man, don't let Riddell throw you off the trail. Invest in Sanji now. We know what we've been reading. We know how durable he is. We know that he hasn't taken any damage since Wano. We know all of this. We know how fast he is. We know about his limited observation hockey. We know what Sanji's destined for. We know what he's destined.
All I'm saying is if Yamato joins the crew as well, he might be the sixth strongest member.
Well, she's stronger than Zoro, so.
Hey man, being the sixth strongest member from the third, that's tough.
Sixth? Wait. Yamato, Luffy, Zoro, Jinbei, 4.
Loki. If we're adding Loki too.
Oh, if they both join, that's crazy. If they both join, that's crazy for Sanji. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Like, bro, what happened to my?
I'm not gonna lie. If they both join, is that not bad for Zoro? And I'm pretty sure Loki's stronger than pretty much everybody on the crew. I think Loki's closer to Luffy than he is to Zoro.
I'm willing to agree, but after Gabon super uber duper glaze Zoro, bro, Zoro's about to become strong as fuck.
Glaze Zoro. If anything, he got mad at him.
I agree, but like if we take into the context of like all the things we can gain from what he said, because he did yell at Zoro. He put him in check. He basically said, yo, you better master that Conqueror's hockey so you can really be on par with that boy Luffy. So I'm like, damn. Once he masters that shit,
Hey, but he said more than one. He didn't just say there was another. He said there's more than one. Sanji conquers hockey, man. Coming soon.
Watch Usopp get in. He's now the seventh strongest.
Sanji conquers hockey coming soon.
Sanji stocks down in the mud, bro.
Coming soon.
Oh man, that's tough. Shout out that boy Sanji, man. He can cook though.
Yo. That's nasty. This was a good chapter. I walked into it hating it after we kind of went over the review. This was a pretty good chapter. We got a lot here. How do you feel about the chapter?
I think it was good. I think it changed the perception of Loki. I think the rise of Harold is more impressive than you think, like compared to like other kings. Like if we had a legit argument, if we had a conversation with the best kings, he's probably I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna stand it. He's a better king than Odin. Considering everything he did individually, I'm not for his kingdom. I would say he's better than Odin was as the chosen. So there are very few kings as good as Harold. Now I can't wait for what comes next. That's what I feel like all of us are waiting for. What happened? How did Harold die? What's going on? How does Emu play into this? And now I'm committed to the idea that Big Mom should also be in the next chapter as well.
My thing is, Oda, this chapter wasn't good enough for you to think you can go on break, though. Like a break after this chapter is kind of wild, my brother. Backstory breaks? Come on, my brother. But it is what it is, man.
At the very least, you can say this. that panel, pull up that panel you just had on. The one with Loki. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, let me just oh my god. Okay, okay. I'm glad that pop up then. That pop up that just that was a
We
crazy
would have been good.
that was a crazy pop up. Yeah.
That is one of the best panels in One Piece. Loki climbing on up that tree as a baby is an amazing panel.
He with a little baby speak, ooga ooga. He's tough. Loki's tough.
That might be one of the moments that's like on par with what what is Zoro said? Nothing happens. Like that is tough.
That's tough.
Shout
I can't wait to
that-
see him fight. I cannot wait to see him fight. I know, like this sold it to me. He's a fucking animal in combat. He's an animal. I know he is.
Yeah, I'm with that. I mean, now we see why he's in the mural. He probably a dog for real. So I'm here for it. Yeah, great, a good chapter for what it was. Unfortunate there's a break, but it is what it is, man.
Yes, sir. Good chapter. I wonder how long they're gonna take to tell us his backstory. What are you thinking? 4 chapters, 5 chapters?
So we're 2 chapters in.
Mm-hmm.
And I say next chapter we start getting the government stuff. Like how did the government play into it? And then I'll say 2 more chapters, and I think we're done with the backstory. Governmental stuff next chapter, and then the last chapter will be Loki taking out Harold and why everybody turned on Loki and imprison Loki and all that stuff.
So I'm with you, except add one more extra chapter into it. I think the government chapter will be 2 weeks from now or 3 weeks because of the break. I think the next chapter is going to go through some of the other misfortunes that Elbaf kind of befell and kind of pin that on Loki to kind of establish why they call him the accursed child. And to add to what you said earlier, I think the events will be with Big Mom, even though it's clearly Big Mom doing it, they're going to pin that on Loki as well. I think we're going to get into way more of the details as to why he's the accursed prince, then the government, because it doesn't seem like Harold's involved in his kid's life at all. Good father as he may be, that nigga looks like he's in the office doing diplomacy. So I think we're going to get that, and then it's going to end with his death. So probably 3 more chapters at most.
Might get a little Lola stuff as well. I think that's her name, the girl that turned.
You reminded me. Thank you. I didn't. Okay. When we learned that Loki liked Lola, and we know what Lola looked like, and I saw Loki, I was like, why the fuck does he like this ugly ass bitch and he looks like that? Straight up. Because Loki, and we all gushed over the panel of his reveal, he looked like a fucking savage. So for him to like befall Lola didn't make sense, but now I get it. They were both ostracized for their appearance. And that's why when he found someone that he could relate to, similar to his father, that's why he fell for Lola. It came full circle now.
Yeah, that should be a touching moment. Last question, because I thought about Lola and I thought about Big Mom and all that stuff. I'm so curious to why Big Mom is a freaking savage as well, because she's not an ancient giant like Loki is. So what makes her just like stronger than a grand majority of the giants? We need that piece on why that is right now. Who do you think is stronger, Big Mom or Loki?
Big Mom.
I was curious to see if anything changed considering all the hype Loki's been getting. But okay.
Big Mom. I'm high on Big Mom. She hasn't really lost a fight yet. She got ringed out. And unfortunately, I think she's a victim. This is the only time that I feel like Oda Red's bad. He hoes Big Mom. He really does a disservice to how strong she should be and what her portrayal should look like. I really do think so.
Yeah, she's an interesting part about in all of this. So I'm curious to see like what is the deal, and also I wonder if he's going to touch upon Kaido because we're kind of assuming he might be like a branched off giant as well.
Something he might have like half because they said he's an Oni. I definitely think he's an ancient giant. He's way too big to not be one, so he could be like half Oni, half ancient giant, or maybe like you were touching on the idea of like very old blood. Maybe he's kind of similar to Loki, to where he's very close to a demon, compared to other giants. Because I think we've seen some panel of Kaido's eyes kind of looking like Loki's eyes a couple times too.
Yeah, one thing I need from Oda in this arc, maybe even in this backstory, try to bridge the line between Kaido and Big Mom and the giant stuff, because yeah, we're past them, but I don't think you've proven, like, you haven't done anything to indicate that they're still not like anomalies and savages. Like, Loki exists, he seems like an outcast, but so are they. So what makes them different from Loki in this situation? That's
Yeah,
what I'm curious about.
and why did Big Mom and Kaido immediately have such a good rapport, right? Because I'm assuming there were other apprentices that came along rock ship, but Big Mom seemed to want to, bump heads with Kaido more than anybody. They were really, really close.
And the final piece of the puzzle that I can't believe we forgot to mention. Why did Rocks be okay with Big Mom and Kaido and not Loki?
Yeah. Huh. Yeah.
And then, are we going to get Rocks in this backstory as well? No, even better. Are we going to
Yo,
get Loki?
hold on. Before you continue, you're cooking because he's talking about, I don't want any squirts on my ship. Kaido was 14 on this ship. So Loki at an older age was denied? I'm not understanding.
Yeah, we're assuming. Also, Loki looked very young in that. And now I'm thinking about it. Wasn't Whitebeard pretty old? How the hell? How old is Whitebeard? That dude was probably old as hell.
What, when he was on Rox's ship?
Because in that moment he looked pretty old in that backstory with Loki, and we know Loki ages slow as fuck.
Yeah, he did. Whitebeard was an old man when he died. I think he was like 78, 79 or something. He was pretty old. So he might have been about 40 on the Rocks Pirates, 30-ish, 35-ish, 40. Damn, Whitebeard old.
I also, yeah, it's a weird thing with Rocks because Loki, for Rocks, he should know that he has so much potential. He's like the freaking demon child. And I'm curious if Kaido or Big Mom even thought about it. Because if Big Mom was inspired by Harold and then eventually joined up with Rocks, wouldn't she be interested that Rocks is on Elbaf? Or went to Elbaf?
Yeah, there's a lot of, and I was about to ask you, did they make it clear where Loki met Rocks? Was it on Elbaf? Because my thing is, if he was allowed to come to Elbaf, I'm assuming he has a rapport with the king. I'm assuming. So if you know this is the king, you don't want to take the king's son when you know the king is a dog.
Yeah. I'm so curious on like the timeline on when like these people join too. Because now I'm assuming that Big Mom had to join after, because unless she really did not care that Rox went to or met with Harold. Unless she forgot, actually, because the amnesia.
She always gets amnesia, yeah. I don't know.
So, but also Kaido's a weird one too. Yeah, I need that Rox, Big Mom, Kaido tie-in thread with Elbaf. I need that. I need to figure out what's going on with all those relationships. Seem too important. But that's all I got.
We're
Long,
on the
long,
same
long
boat.
talk.
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
All right. Well, long video for you guys, which is fitting because we're not going to get a One Piece chapter because of the break. So you guys have plenty of time to watch the full conversation between myself and Miles for this One Piece chapter, overall W chapter. Anything else you got?
Last thing, I'll just show it on the screen real quick. Fuck the little ad. Elbaf might have been pivotal in making the what are those things called? It's not called the compass. I can't think of the name because it's not really important anymore. But the things that they use to travel to and from islands.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about. I can't think of the name. I'm sure somebody in the comments will it'll make their day correcting me. So please go correct me. But I tying into what I was saying about their resources other than combat, I think they were very pivotal in making the device that helped people travel from island to island, using what is called the pole star that we see him mentioning here. So pretty cool to see they were a lot more educated even before Saul and everybody came back. They were very resourceful and educated. I think that was a cool little thing for Oda to add.
Facts. Also, for some reason that horse did that horse have like multiple legs or something?
He had 8 legs.
Yeah, shout out 8-legged horse, but all right, shout out. But yeah, appreciate you guys. Like and subscribe if you guys enjoyed this video. But another One Piece chapter, and the summer anime season's right around the corner, so I'm sure more good stuff. I haven't been watching the anime, so I probably watched the entire backstory over because I'm curious if they added anything. But make sure you guys peep that as well. But that said, hope you guys enjoyed. Have a good one. Take care and peace.